So here I have my pattern rafter all made up in the previous video. I have marked here my overhang, my bird's mouth, one creeper, another creeper, and at the top here my common rafter and my crown end rafter. So in order to mark the rest of our rafters out, we have a couple of options. We can use this as a pattern for everything and simply line up the square with our previous line and transfer it onto the next rafter. So there's my bird's mouth lined up, and I'll turn my square around, and there's my bird's mouth mark that I put on my square in the previous video. I simply line that up with my plumb line and mark my bird's mouth. I'll slide up. I'm going to start with my first lot of creeper rafters. I'm going to line that up with the long point of my right hand creeper, and that's going to be cut in that direction. So there's my first creeper done. I'll move that away and we'll mark the second creeper exactly the same way. I'll put my square down the bottom and line that overhang up, bring it up, line the bird's mouth plumb cut, mark the seat cut, and this time I'm lining up with the short point of my left hand creeper, and that cut will go in that direction. So that's the second creeper done. Let's do a common rafter now. Overhang, bird's mouth, seat cut, and now when I come up the top here, I'll line that up with my common rafter, line that through, and I'll just do the same thing with the crown end rafter. Now that's using the pattern rafter to transfer onto all my other rafters. There's another option. We can simply cut that first rafter off, which is what I've done there. Here's one I've cut previously. So I've cut the overhang, the bird's mouth, and I've cut the end off. So I can bring over all the rafters that I want to make up, put that on top, and simply trace my shape onto all the other rafters. And then when I cut the next one, I trace the next one on. Alright, let's cut some of these rafters up. Some people like to use the drop saw for these end cuts, but I much prefer the power saw. I can line up a bunch of rafters on a set of saw stools and cut them all at once. I think it's a bit of a pain trying to carry big rafters over to a drop saw and back again. Now for the bird's mouth, making sure to cut very neatly. And finish with a handsaw. Let's have a look at the creeper rafters. So here is the top of a creeper rafter we have to cut. So if you have a look, I've got my saw set on a 45-degree angle, and I can see which direction I should be cutting in, and I simply cut along that plumb line that we've marked. And there's the top of our right hand creeper. The left hand's cut in exactly the same way, just from the opposite direction. So when you start installing the rafters on a roof like this, it's usually a two-person job. Nobody else in the factory is available today, so I'm stuck doing this by myself. But you would normally start with the first set of common rafters at one end and the last set of common rafters at the other end. Line it up carefully with the line, a couple of nails, and someone would usually hold the top of that rafter while the other worker gets the opposite rafter in. Carefully line it up. A couple of nails in there. And those two rafters will kind of hold each other up while you get the other rafters at the other end. And then you simply get one person on either end and you just slide the ridge up in between. And it can be a little bit awkward doing this on your own, but just a nail through there. That will hold the first rafter. Bring it over. And a second nail will hold it. And that happens at the other end as well. Now time to bring in the crown end, and this is what will brace the roof up and stop your rafters from falling over in the wind. Bottom gets nailed in just the same way. Now when that crown end is nailed in at the top, you'll notice that the top of this common rafter does not line up with the top of that crown end. And the reason is because they have a different deduction. So if the deductions are different, the tops won't necessarily line up. But what will line up are these two edges, because even though they have different deductions, they are the same thickness. So those corners will line up.